Welcome to Conversations Different, the podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican about the interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and this week we have a really delightful show, I believe. We are going to learn about musical theater and how it came to Santa Fe and is thriving. With us are Marilyn and Cris Barnes, who founded Tri-M Productions, and we'll get into a longer name later. But first, let me welcome you to our show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us, yes.
So, Marilyn, I will start with you. You are a well-known teacher of voice in Santa Fe and have been here for a long time helping young singers realize their potential. What gave you guys the idea to start musical theater?
Well, it really was Kathleen Rich, our musical director. She lived across the street from us when she was singing with the Desert Chorale, and she always talked about how she thought she could move here and start a music theater company because there wasn't anything going on in town. And so she moved and quickly found out how expensive it was to live in Santa Fe and worked for me at the high school. But we talked about it off and on. And then our family farm in northern Idaho finally was dissolved between 8 siblings, Catholic family. And so we had a little cash.
Nice.
So we jumped in.
So you took an inheritance, basically, and started this production company. And it's hard because there's no place to actually rehearse or to play regularly because you move around depending on what's available. And Cris, why don't you handle that? Because you're kind of the nuts and bolts guy, aren't you, a little bit?
Right. Part of why they started this was that the pandemic came, and Marilyn really didn't like teaching online over the air and decided maybe it was time to retire. But it was the pandemic, and all the theaters were closed. So we did our first couple of little shows on the back porch of our across-the-street neighbors with everybody socially distanced in little family pods outside. And I like to show the difference between those audiences of 40 then and the over 300 we had at the St. Francis Auditorium for our recent production of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was in the second or third night. I can't remember which one I went to, but it was a great show. That was so good. Was Godspell the first formal production you guys did?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I was at that too. And that was amazing at the Women's Club. And it was almost like people just standing and you used scarves to change their costumes and make them who they were. It was really well done with so little stuff that you think of in theater.
And that was the only indoor space that was available at that time.
Okay.
But then subsequently, it went very quickly from us trying to contact the few theaters there are in town and saying, are you available to rent? And they say, oh, no, we're not doing anything. To suddenly, oh, no, we're totally booked. That took about 1 month in 21. But we managed to sneak into the Actors Lab.
Okay. And what made you choose Godspell for the first production?
We just thought it was bright, happy, and not too hard. We knew we had this skinny little stage. And I love how, Inez, you say that we didn't do much. I did those circles, which Kathleen was like, I think that's very scary. And I'm like, well, they have to move around. Otherwise, It's so boring. So we got used to how close you could get to the edge of the stage.
Yeah, no, it was choreographed beautifully. And it was a show, not just people standing singing. Right. But to do that with such little space was amazing. I mean, that was the part I thought is like, how the heck did she do that? And then with each show, it gets more complicated. It seems like to me. I mean, Kinky Boots at the high school, you had the whole big stage, you had costumes, you had, different settings and everything. That was a complicated show, it seemed like to me.
Yes. We've tended to put a big show in the June slot, especially because this high school has the most audience. Well, we have St. Francis, but of course we have to make that into a theater.
Right, because it's just a stage.
It's just a concert.
Yeah. And can only afford it for one weekend.
Okay, that's why Oklahoma was so, that's right.
Yeah. But that was a big one. Legally Blonde also last summer, and now Into the Woods at that space this summer. And so for the first time, we're going to use projections.
Okay.
which we think will be exciting because I have always believed I wanted to pay my singers. Being a singer myself and having so many people in my life be so confused that I would want a paycheck. I mean, I'm on the stage. What else do I want?
You're getting known. Isn't that enough? Yes,
And
yes.
so I think we kind of helped Santa Fe, and even now, Cris has a great story about a theater in Albuquerque paying. But anyway, so we haven't put a lot of expense into a huge set. You know, we've wanted to have people. We always will have a live band that is top in our list.
No, even having music, actual music, while they sing is just a huge part of the whole event, I think.
I talk about the virtuous circle of the actors singing on stage and the band making them even better and the audience reacting to that singing and playing, and they react well, and that makes the actors back basically even better, and the band picks up and the audience is really happy in that virtuous circle. That's what makes live performance so great.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's always that back and forth, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, Legally Blonde, I just thought was amazing because that one, you had costumes, you had dancing, you had just all the different parts, and it was very complicated. And who would think that you have that kind of talent in Santa Fe and Albuquerque? I mean, you probably knew because you taught so many of them, but still, that's a lot of great singers and actors in one spot.
It is quite amazing. I mean, we had the incentive seeing our students on the street and saying, "Oh, what are you doing? Are you singing?" You know, hadn't opened their mouths except in their cars and in the shower.
Since high school.
Wow.
And it just broke our hearts. They lived in the theater, in the choir room. So that was the real incentive to start Tri-M. But it has, of course, grown way beyond that. And it's quite amazing how many people in town have some sort of musical theater background. We have, what's Joanna's job?
So Joanna Nelson is the director of the economic development in the city right now. But she decided, despite two very cute small young girls, that she was willing to do a show with us. So she's going to be, I think, the evil stepmother in Into the Woods.
Who doesn't want to be an evil stepmother? That's the best.
Right.
Well, Bear works at my dentist's office. So, I mean, there's nothing like going and you get your teeth cleaned and there's all the beautiful shows that he's been in over.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it shows that just because you grow up and have a normal career and a job, you don't have to give up music.
Exactly. And that was our whole thing. You know, if you have an avocation that adds joy to your life, we want to help keep young people here by having something more than just their job and their family.
But we want to reward them for their talent by actually paying them, which has been a big thing for us.
Oh, on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
If you're considering going solar but aren't sure who to speak with for accurate information, avoid the high-pressured sales and receive a hassle-free experience. Contact Positive Energy Solar today. Positive Energy is your local, trusted, and employee-owned solar experts that have been helping New Mexicans live more sustainably since 1997. Go solar with confidence. Schedule your free, no-obligation solar evaluation at positiveenergysolar.com.
Generate positive energy. Positive Energy Solar.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking about musical theater in Santa Fe and how wonderful it has been the past few years to be able to go to shows and hear all of your favorite songs and some that you don't know, which is always interesting as well. Cris, one of the things you talked about before the break is how it's important to pay the singers and the actors. And how do you guys do that?
So we suffer from the economic disease, it was called on a recent Freakonomics podcast, of having a labor-intensive business of music theater. And so our costs scale with the size of the cast.
Right.
But with the 2 small theaters available in Santa Fe right now, given the Greer Garson closed, the James A. Little still under renovation, the former Armory for the Arts no longer available as a theater. We're stuck in small theaters. So we really rely on donations of people who love our work to be able to close the books. And of course, as Marilyn said, we started with her spending some of her inheritance. But we valued very much that we were going to pay people as best we could. And we've tried to understand what a actors union rate would be, and in fact for this show we're paying that rate for performances, but we can't afford to pay for the rehearsal period, and therefore we are not yet a professional company, though we aspire to that.
Oh, wow. So that gives you a goal and a reason for people to donate. If people want to give you money, where do they give it?
So we have a website, trimsantafe.org, trimsantafe.org. And if you go there, there's a donation page, and you can find our address and phone numbers and so on and contact us about us. The best thing for you to do is to buy a ticket and come see our show and tell more people about it. Our biggest issue right now is that most people in Santa Fe don't even know that we exist. And so we want to get the word out any way we can.
That makes sense. And when you buy a ticket, there's an option that you can add a donation. So you can do both at the same time, should you want to.
That's correct.
Talk about what TRIM stands for, Marilyn. It's TRIM Millennial Music Makers Productions. Is the whole
Correct.
Okay.
It's a mouthful.
It is. But why is the millennial so important?
Well, I think it has changed because we really had a renaissance of theater in town. But at the time, most of the theaters were using people they were comfortable with. And they'd been quite comfortable for quite a few years. So young people just weren't getting any opportunities. And of course, combined with the fact that Kathleen and I were trying to get our old students corralled again, we wanted to keep the age limit around 40, 45. And at first, we didn't have anybody over 33. But we have since then, we're doing enough now that we're casting age appropriate. If it's supposed to be a dad, why it's got to be at least whatever age.
Right, like in Oklahoma, you have the older people and then you have the younger people, so you had a range of different people.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's been very funny. The older people are like, what about us? And we're like, okay, yeah, we're going to do Fiddler on the Roof in November.
Oh.
So that could allow for, again, a lot of multi-generational casting.
I would bet they learn a lot from each other.
Yes.
Because you don't necessarily think that young people like musical theater or that some of them are singing in barbershop quartets on the side, that kind of thing. But they are, some of them, and then they learn from older people who maybe did this, for a career and then went and did something else. I imagine there's a lot of interesting stuff going on at rehearsals.
Yes. I mean, we're mostly working our little tooties off. But there's a 15-minute break, and most of them come quite a bit early. That was fun. The first, when we did Closer Than Ever on Margie and Ellie's
Backyard porch.
I came over to Chris and I said, oh my gosh, they're socializing. Like they said, let's go out somewhere and have a beer. I'm like, oh. And then we were fascinated with how all of a sudden making a little piece of art also made some wonderful friendships.
We didn't realize when we started this that we were actually starting a social club for them. And that's been really nice. And I personally believe that we contribute to the economic development of this town by keeping some of these young early career professionals in town happy in Santa Fe because they can both have a living and do what they love to do. And the number of our talented people who said to Marilyn, you saved my life by giving this to me, is quite a few people have said that.
Oh, that's pretty impressive. And I know some of them because Santa Fe is a small town and, they all grew up, our kids grew up together, et cetera, and they were once my kids' friends. And you see them and you think, wow, I didn't think you'd be back. And here they are with great jobs during the day and having this, wonderful avocation, during the months that you guys are performing. And you do reviews kind of where you do lots of different songs. It's not just the actual production. So talk about the kind of the Broadway nights and those kinds of things.
Yes. I mean, again, that was just another opportunity. We try to do a smaller show at the Actors Lab. Mostly it's about bathrooms. Because we're like, the Actors Lab only has 2 bathrooms, so I have to keep the poor audience only to one bathroom while the actors quickly try to go to the bathroom at intermission. And so small show is good, right?
Right,
Not
right.
too many actors. But then you feel bad because a lot of people are like, I haven't done anything since November. So, and we actually started out with a Broadway Bites at Teatro Peraguas and really enjoyed that. And this latest one we just did, Broadway Delights, Bear Shock and Evan Aguilar, they actually ran it. Because Cris and I are trying to think how, a little bit about the longevity of the company. It's not like we were 45 when we started it, because we had our own careers.
That's right.
And so, and they did a wonderful job.
Nice.
Wonderful job. And so involved a lot of singers. We had a nice crowd, made a little bit of money.
Yep. And we're trying to do more of these Tri-M Showcase series, letting our talent now get into the directing side if they want to do a show. So we'll have a show of Andrew's Sisters type music this December that Alex Generous is going to direct.
Oh, that'll be fun. And those are great songs, and they're kind of perky around the holidays
Exactly.
as well. That sounds good. We'll be back in a moment with some more Conversations Different. We'll be back after a quick break.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking about Tri-M Productions and their upcoming show. I want to hear all about Into the Woods. So what is that about? And I think it's scary, isn't it? Because
It's really big.
Ooh.
It's very big. I mean, I had to add 2 more blocking rehearsals just to get through it all. And it was really cute. The theater teacher, Reed Mashevsky, he's like, I don't know how you think you're going to do this at Santa Fe High School. And I was like, can't be that hard. Joey Chavez and I did it the first year I was at Santa Fe High School. But it's really hard. They go on and off, on and off, on and off. And it's also super exciting. The music's so wonderful. And it's...
You might mention the composer's name?
Oh, yes, Stephen Sondheim. Kathleen and I are both aficionados. So
he's something special.
Although Kathleen will often complain about 5 flats or 6 sharps all the time.
Well, that makes, she has to use her little fingers and stuff to get them. Yeah. The thing about Sondheim is like, I think people who like musical theater obviously know who he is, and that's going to be a draw just to see, like, what will they do with this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was a lot of interest. We had 63 people audition, which was enormous for 22 roles. And I had to write all those no thank you, please audition again letters, which were terrible. But the cast seems to be very, they're coming to rehearsal and enjoying themselves. Laura is doing an amazing job. We had our first...
That's Laura Roscoe Garrett, our wonderful choreographer.
That's right.
Yeah, her mom has been a choreographer at NDI and with Pandemonium.
And was a former judge in Texas. One of the things about Santa Fe is everyone has a past life.
So cool.
Yeah, Diana was one of the few
Wow.
Democrats elected in Dallas a million years ago.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Laura started out saying, I have sort of a strong personality. You'd understand if you knew my mom.
That is so true.
So we had our first choreography session, and everyone was just like, wow, that was really fun. And some of the singers were dreading it, and some of the dancers were anticipating it. So it's coming along. And of course, one of the most fun facts about this show is Kathleen Rich, who has a big resume in music theater. Her parents ran a theater in, what's their little town in Texas? Anyway, she sang Annie and has not stopped, but has not done music theater for quite a while. And when we were getting this organized, and Chris was mostly talking about the nonprofit status, he's the one that has made this continue the way it is. He has sort of a theory about artists trying to run their theaters.
Careful.
Well, one of the things about theater is it brings the skills of all the cast to make a great production, and a company brings the skills of all the members to run it beautifully.
Right.
So when is this great show going to be?
So we open on Thursday, June 12th. We'll have shows Thursday through Sunday over those 2 weekends. I'm sorry for people who love the weekend matinees, but we're only having a matinee on Sunday at 2 p.m. We will have Friday night performances because it is summer and it'll be like the longest days of the year.
Right.
On Saturday night. So we close on then the 22nd of June. We're at the Santa Fe High School Performing Arts Center Theater, which is currently the best working theater in Santa Fe, with its wonderful rake seats and very comfortable and a pretty big stage with lots of ways to get on and off and room for a pit band. Kathleen, because she's going to be the witch, she had to find someone else to come in and be the maestro running the orchestra. And so she picked basically someone who might be the best pianist in town, Nate Salazar, who many people will know from the Desert Chorale and many other places. He'll just be back from some opera company where he's been coaching or whatever, and is going to fill in as leader of the band.
Oh, wow. There's always another layer of talent in this town. That is what I think people, I've been here forever, and it surprises me every time.
Right. And you started off before we went on the air about how many people worry that, we only like world-class art in this town.
Yep.
And this town is well known as a world-class place for the visual arts. It's known as a world-class place for summer performing arts and music. And one of my goals is to try and help this town be recognized as a place which is also really good with lots of theatrical performing arts. And so love a bigger theater. I'd love the companies to collaborate more. And that's one of the things that I do.
Yeah, it seems to me that one of the things that your success has shown is that we need a better theater for all the different companies, because the high school might have the best stage, but it's a very strange configuration.
Exactly. And not everyone can use it.
Yeah.
It's only because of my long association with the Santa Fe Public Schools that they trust me. And we have the band teacher is playing the steward. So
nice.
He's our sitter. You have to have
a contact from the school, which makes sense. Yeah.
And so, if the alarm goes off, why, he's able to call the numbers, of which I probably could call the number and say, hi, it's Miss Barnes. And they would be like, okay, we'll turn it off, But it's really wonderful that he's taken that responsibility on. He's a wonderful young man, Cameron Wilson.
Okay.
Right. So I don't want to impugn the present theaters, so it's more that people need more theaters to choose from so that they can expand and do more theater.
Now, if they remodel the Greer Garson the way people are talking and make that a great space, that at least will help. But I think a lot of people are thinking about a performing arts space that has maybe an arena for concerts, has a real theater, and something even beyond what we have existing, that we need more.
There's some great spots on the south side to build such a center as that, but it requires the performing companies to work together for it.
Right.
And that may be hard. I love the editorial in the New Mexican by someone about the Big Lots and Joann's Fabrics that are closing. That are across from Meow Wolf and in the Sila Rafina Cultural Nexus. And I love the idea of taking the Big Lots building and turn it into a 250 seat black box that would then be available to all sorts of people. So anybody out there listening to this who knows anything about that and is willing to help, please contact me.
Now, I remember, different towns that I've lived in, they have, you have the fancy performances, but you have dinner theaters. You have musical reviews in the summer. So there's lots of ways to connect with audiences with performing arts, depending on if you have the venues and the will and the people to do it.
Right. I think it's going to be, we have to cross our fingers about the Greer, that it doesn't become, something like the Lensic. That's our theater, right? But that's a little out of our price range. So if you need to be in a theater at least on Monday to open Thursday, and then you're going to do 2 weekends, and they want to charge a daily rate that's quite high, it's just really it's out of local theaters' price range. So,
and they don't have the time to do that. They've got events scheduled nearly every night. I make a distinction between performance spaces that work for events where you load in, do a sound check, perform, and then load out, and theaters where you can actually go in for. She says Monday. I mean, you really want to be able to get in 2 weeks before you open, so you like it for a month at a time.
Yeah,
and
which is what we have at the Actors Lab.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's a perfect model. Like 4 or 5 of us each taking 2 months or
a month a year.
A month, and that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. So maybe people can cooperate, and there'll be a great leader who will come forward and help spearhead it. Because
I'll follow that great leader if you can find him.
Because it really seems important to have a thriving arts community in all facets.
I think, when we have such a amazing little city, it would be wonderful to add that facet.
Yeah. I love that you took the pandemic kind of misery and turned it into something so positive.
Yes, we had 3 Santa Fe High School women who were all home and, just sitting at home being crazy. So that's when we did our first Sondheim review. And those they're all back out in the world. But they were the impetus for that. I was like, this is terrible. Melody Het is not singing. She was, all 3 of them were stars throughout their high school career.
Yeah. And there's so many places now that are training people to perform, because you have the high schools, you have the School for the Arts, you have all of the little the Pandemonium productions that they start at, and then you get to 18 and boom, you're done.
Exactly.
Right. So we just went down last week, this week, and saw Next to Normal at University of New Mexico.
Nice.
Because 3 of the college performers down there are in our cast.
Oh.
Little Red, the Wolf, and Jack are all going to be in our show. They auditioned very well, and so we're really pleased to see that tie in to the UNM program.
Yes, plus we had that big choreography Sunday night, so they finished their run, and then they drove up and did the rehearsal. So
theater is hard work.
Yeah.
But we love it so much, and we're so glad our audience loves it too.
Yeah. Yeah, you have very loyal fans.
You really do. People who just have hardly missed any.
Yeah.
And now we have people sometimes like, could we come to a dress rehearsal or something? We're going to be out of town your whole run of some production. We're like, sure.
Yeah. And slip us $100, as you know. Just kidding.
That's what I do if I go to a rehearsal.
Yes. Oh, well, we look forward to Into the Woods and can't wait to see what you guys are up to next. And thank you for taking time. This has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week. But before we go, listen to Oklahoma by Triumph Productions.
Oklahoma, where the waving wings, it sure smells sweet.
Thank you for listening to Conversations Different, hosted by me, Inez Russell Gomez, editorial page editor for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our weekly episodes would not be possible without your support. We hope you enjoy them and keep listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Consider signing up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our podcast is available by visiting our website, santafenewmexican.com/podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez is produced by Matt Dalside and Ernesto Cisneros, published by the Santa Fe New Mexican, a local and independent newspaper owned by Robin Martin.